Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Yes, good, right. My name's Gary Burchell, and I made a game. Some of you may or may not have heard of it, but it's Abandoned Ship, and we self-published it into early access on the 21st of February this year. And we're a reasonably small team. It's myself and my business partner, and then we have a handful of absolutely excellent freelancers that help us do what we have to do. And when we launched, it did rather well. The night we launched, we managed to get 4th in the global top sellers chart on Steam, which was just mind-blowing and absolutely wonderful. Now, why I'm doing this talk is because in that time, I learned a hell of a lot, and it would have been really, really handy to know all of that stuff when I started. So I wanted to do this talk because if somebody leaves the room with the thought of, I'm going to do one of those things that Gary said, and it works out for you, then that was worth doing a talk for. So the talk's going to cover some of the things we did that were helpful in getting us noticed, because it is a constant fight. There's a lot of competition out there. Now, if you've been to lots of other talks this week, you'll have heard loads of different things, loads of different techniques, all work for different people, and that's awesome. So this is just, I'm not saying this is a silver bullet, this is what worked for us. Take what you will from it. But the things we did during our pre-release marketing got us numbers that, I didn't have a huge amount of frame of reference, but I felt that was good. We got over 130,000 wish lists on Steam. We had over 400 articles published worldwide, and we had well over 1.4 million views on YouTube, and that number's a combination of our own channel and something we did with a bunch of other channels that covered us pre-release. So that YouTube number there doesn't include from basically when we launched, because at that point I lost track. There's lots of streamers of different levels that cover it, and there's too many to track. We did all this, we self-published, so we didn't have any publisher assistants doing this, and nobody on the team had any marketing experience before. So we kind of just had some ideas, did a lot of hard work, and somehow managed to get some success. Now, what this talk is not going to do is tell you that if you're an indie, how screwed you are as an indie in 2018, because there's enough of that material out there. You'll know the mountain that's ahead of you. Like I said, this isn't a silver bullet. I'm not going to pretend this is a magic recipe that you should all follow and that I know everything, because we just did what we thought was right for us. I'd be wary of anybody telling you that they have anything like that, because, the individuals making the game are different. The game itself is different, and the market changes constantly. So what has worked in the past doesn't necessarily work now. One of the things I did with all of our pre-release marketing was just tracked absolutely everything I could, right the way down to individual social media posts and how they performed. And the reason why I did that was just because I didn't know what I was doing, but if I could track the data, then I could start to notice patterns, and I hoped when I started that would prove useful, and it has. So the talk's 45 minutes. I'm going to go along at a fair clip. There should be time for Q&A at the end. If not, I will just be around outside to ask questions. And it's an overview. I'm not going to deep dive it. I'd love to dive into every worksheet in my massive Excel, because it's very fascinating to me anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's just one example of one of the things that is on the sheet. Now, this is a very obvious slide. But the reason why I have it is because these things are very, very easy to forget when you are sat making your game. And I'm horrifically guilty of that. So in here, in this environment, we're all very receptive to it. This is going to sound very obvious, but ultimately, people have to know you exist in order to buy your game. And I would forget that at the best of times. I still forget it. It's terrible, but it's really important. And you've got to do that before you release, because the moment you release, you are old news and you're boring. There's lots of other new exciting things to focus on. I know now that how well you do in your pre-release marketing is really going to influence what you sell at launch, and that is going to influence what you sell over your entire life cycle of the game. So, particularly if you're on Steam, everyone's heard of the Steam algorithm, but it feels like it is geared to just make anything that doesn't achieve a certain level of success disappear. And that is why it's important you do all of this to make sure you have a good launch. So the very first question you should be asking yourself is, what is it about your game that people are going to care about enough to be interested to buy it? Using Abandoned Ship as reference, I had faith, and I use the word faith because you don't have all the answers. If you're looking at other games similar to yours and saying, hey, that sold 1 million copies, so I'm going to sell 1 million copies, that's not how it works. So there is an element of a mixture of experience and hard work and faith. But I had faith that Abandoned Ship would interest people because I thought pirates were going to sort of come back, and luckily for me, they kind of did. And that's awesome if you can catch a trend when it's new and exciting. You don't want to be at the end of the trend. But yeah, I thought the game was just an attractive proposition for players. I thought the art style was a really good thematic and tonal fit because it's a naval game, and the art style is based on classic naval oil paintings. And just as a package, I thought that was really cohesive, and visuals do draw people in. But ultimately, doesn't matter what game we had. It would, if people didn't see us, that was it. We were gone. So we focused a lot on Steam wishlists. The reason for that was because I saw it as nobody could buy our game at that stage, but the next level of commitment is to wishlist the game. And they're absolutely brilliant because not only do they provide validation on what your marketing beats are, but of course, when you launch, anybody wishlist your game will receive an email, which is very handy. There's also these slots on the front page which are curated by Valve. I don't know for definite, but everything points to if you have certain wishlist numbers, then you'll be eligible for being featured on those slots. And they're very good to be a part of. And of course, you want to view people on your wish list as people to convert in the future. A lot of them will probably be waiting for the game to discount to 75% or whatever, but you still want that money later down the line. This graph here I'll keep coming back to, but it is our wish list graph. I will give some numbers, but I've purposely omitted them there for now. So the start of the line is where our Steam page went live. It's the first time you could wishlist the game. It coincided with a big marketing beat. And it ends the day before we released. And there is a twist in the tale, which I'll get to at the end. But every one of those bumps you see there is down to marketing. And again, I sit here, and it's extremely obvious looking at it now. But at the time, seeing the effect this had matched exactly with our marketing, it was like, well, of course, we should be doing this, and we should be doing it a lot. So we put a lot of focus on it. Now, we wanted a way to announce our existence that was basically going to come in, hopefully blow people away and grab them, because like I said, there's so much out there, it's just, you've got to rise above the noise. So we thought, I don't know if many people were here for the last talk, but a similar thing to them, their trailer really made a difference to Ground Shatter Games. And we wanted something that, if we could sell the dream, then that was our best chance of success. And in terms of our pre-release marketing, that was by far the biggest and best thing we did. But what do I mean by biggest and best? So, logistically, things like I only wanted to spend the money on a professional actor once, and I thought the time to do that is a proper cool announcement trailer. We could capture all our gameplay via at the same time. Awesome, we're done. Also, because we sort of started thinking about our announcement quite early on, and our kind of motto is go big or go home. To get from the stage of everything we wanted to show in the trailer, and we had, just prototypes at that stage, that was a big investment of time. Definitely worth it though, because it succeeded in selling the dream. It had a big impact. It definitely set the tone for us internally because, we had, like I said, we have faith, but this was the validation of that. And externally it was cool as well. You could look at something that people were looking at and talking about, and that's really cool, particularly early on in development. So, but it also helped because, at the start, it can be quite daunting as to sort of what it is you focus on. But this gave us a really clear focus to kind of drive towards, which was useful. So our announcement trailer, I think, if you take one thing away from this talk, create something that does sell the dream, because we started with this, but people just come back to it time and time again. Pretty much every article that we have on us, the announcement trailer is put up there, so it's done wonders for us. But the announcement trailer basically took the form of, it was all gameplay footage, had really evocative and epic music, kind of fitted the theme, and we got straight into combat and exploration gameplay because, nobody cares who Fireblade software is. Maybe when we've done a few games, yes, but so they don't want to see logos of the company, you just want to get straight into gameplay. And it had to be gameplay footage, we're not going to do a pre-rendered cinematic or anything like that. But we just wanted to fit in everything that was going to excite people. So, we had tidal waves crashing into the ship, and sea monsters, and lightning strikes, and all stuff like that. And it was all gameplay, but it was just, we showed our best stuff. But we also wanted it to tell a story, so it was framed within this narrative device of it being a message in a bottle, and you saw kind of the rise of the player, then their fall, and gradual sort of rescue, and getting revenge, and that all fitted within the themes of the game. I was really proud of it, but I had no idea how it was going to do, who would care. I think I naively wrote estimates the night before of what it was going to achieve, and I wrote 5,000 views, and because I had no idea. But what happened? So a week after we launched, it got 50,000 views, and the little box there is the views that it's got as of last week, and all the trailers I'll go through have got similar boxes. But we've got over 90 articles. We identified our sort of top targets as being PC Gamer RPS and PC Games Zen, and they all covered it, which was good. But it resulted in 6,000 wish lists, which really got us off to a good start. But it had unexpected bonuses as well. So I naively, again, I hate saying things like this because it's silly now, thinking about it, but you have to go through the process to realise it's silly. I was just going to talk to YouTubers at the end of the project, and that was my plan. So I had loads of YouTubers start emailing me wanting copies of the game, and some of these guys were subscribers tens of thousands, a few were hundreds of thousands. So I was just like, yeah, I'll give you a copy when it's the right time, and put the names in the press list or whatever. But again, that's brilliant because they're reaching out to you. You've got their email addresses. Later on, you can just reply to them. But it also attracted a lot of indie publisher interest, which we'd already planned to self-publish. We got a bit of funding from the UK Games Fund, and that kind of reinforced that. So the publisher interest threw us a bit. It was very flattering, and it's something we seriously considered for a while, but ultimately we felt that we should be true to what we originally wanted to do, which was self-publish. I did really go into detail on our announcement trailer in a couple of blog posts on the website, and the link is on there if you're interested in seeing it. But yeah, as of last week, it had over 113,000 views. But without talking to the press, nobody would have seen our trailer, because we were stuck in that awkward position where we had no following. Nobody knew anything about us. We were starting from zero, and we needed people to see our trailer. So, just posting on social media wasn't enough. So, we had to cover the specialist press. But there's a problem with that, because, if coverage is going to lead to your people seeing your trailer and getting invested, everybody's heard the horror stories about what journalists' inboxes are like, and they might not even see my email, let alone read it, let alone think it's good enough to then write an article about it. So, the reason I've got that image there is because I kind of imagine the guy being the journalist, and the ominous writhing massive tentacles being their inbox. But from everything I understand, that is kind of what it's like. So I didn't really have any advantages. I've been in the industry for 16 years, terrifyingly, but I wasn't a name that people recognised. The stuff I'd worked on didn't really have any bearing to this, and it was, some stuff was good, some stuff was terrible. But yeah, if Gabe Newell emails somebody, they're going to read that email, right? Not necessarily from Gary Burchell. So I kind of had to just go to basics. So, in terms of emailing the press, and I'd already gone through the process of getting direct emails. I think that is better than just emailing a generic news@whatever-site.com. And, sent out all my emails, had them pre-written, and I was just using common sense. So, wasn't too verbose, didn't want the email to just be a massive wall of text or anything, just got right to the point. I was professional. Some people go in for the quirky thing, but I think that can be a bit risky, and I didn't really want to do anything risky with something this important. I just made it easy for the journal. The press link was very quickly accessible, and a link at the start of the email, just things like that. Your email subject has got to be right as well. You don't want to go too generic, because they've probably got a million emails in their inbox that say exciting new game or whatever. At the same time, you don't want to do anything that's going to switch them off. So you've got to get in that sort of sweet spot. That's going to be dependent on your game, really. So I think for us, I think our initial emails were, the subject was FTL meets Master and Commander, just to try and grab them. I would say if you do have any of the advantages that I didn't have, use them, because you'd be nuts not to, everybody else will be. So if you are a name that's recognisable, if you have worked on something that bears relation to what you're doing now or is very highly regarded, use it. The only thing I did, which I would say you should be very careful with, is I met journalists at events. Living in the UK, and there's events that PC Gamer and RPS do, and Eurogamer, that you can go and meet the journalists. Why I say be careful is, you don't want to go there and make a bad impression. So I could talk to these places as a fan because I read all of their articles. But I made sure I never, ever went, hey, I'm a game developer, do you want to see my game? Because that's going to immediately put them in a kind of, this guy's a salesman, I'm being hassled, and you don't want to be that person. So I made sure I never mentioned what it is that I did, unless I was specifically asked, which is okay, because they've asked me. So it's definitely playing the long game, but that really helped in terms of building relationships. And I'd say apply the same logic on Twitter. You don't stalk them, but you can kind of chime in with comments occasionally. They might throw you a follow back. Could lead somewhere. When it comes to emailing the press, so the process I would generally go through is I'd have everything ready, I'd launch the trailer, and then I'd send out all the emails that were pre-written to all of the individual outlets and journalists. But you might not get a reply. This is not necessarily a bad thing. They're all extremely busy. So some do, and that's all good, but some don't, and maybe an article will pop up, maybe it won't. You're definitely not, particularly if you're starting out, you're definitely not the most important thing they're going to be doing that day. So again, I would fall into this trap where I'd hit the send button and then I'd check the website and be like, it's not up yet, which of course it's not going to be. It doesn't work like that. And you're not always going to get coverage. Coverage is not a right. Don't expect it. You have to work hard for it, and hopefully you'll get it. But even if everything's great, there might be reasons why you're not covered. And that might just be they missed it, or everyone was very busy, or something else came up. It might be that they're never going to cover you. What you can do is you can send a single friendly follow-up email. You should make sure you're very courteous and professional. You want to build bridges, not burn them. And that would apply to sending more than one follow-up. If you send a follow-up email and you don't get coverage, you're not going to get coverage that time. Don't get in the realms of hassling them. So rightly or wrongly, the success we had with our announcement trailer, because I was doing all the marketing, I was like, well, that was awesome, so I can do this, so we'll do it. I'll get onto whether you want to do that yourselves later on, but yeah, we had a plan to do quite a few trailers covering different parts of the game, and we'd do these every 2 or 3 months. The plan was that it would match natural development so that it didn't affect the team too much, which of course it did. They all took ages, and they never matched the success of our first trailer. But they did serve an immensely useful purpose, which was not only were they reminding people that we existed, and there's definitely some sort of biopsychology there in terms of people need to see things so many times before they'll commit. But also, there's new people seeing you constantly, and getting this coverage is really important in getting as many eyes on you as possible, whether they know about you or new to you. So next trailer we did focused on combat gameplay. I was like, well, the announcement trailer was so successful, we've got all this coverage, this is going to be easy from now on. I'll just email, oh, hey, Gary, yeah, sure, don't worry, I'll stick that up immediately. And it wasn't like that at all. Had to work just as hard for coverage, if not more, because you weren't as sexy, new, and exciting as you were originally. So, and I had no idea what to expect, but we got 20,000 views in our first week, got about 60 articles worldwide. That included PC Gamer, PC Games and Eurogamer, which was a surprise, because I felt that was quite speculative. Now, RPS didn't cover it until I sent that friendly reminder email. but that gave a good bump to the numbers. And we got 3,000 wish lists from that, so a decent return. Now, our announcement trailer had a big Kraken in it, and everybody loved that. So I was like, well, a trailer that focuses on the Kraken and the stuff around that will go down really well. But that kind of came out and just, you know, by our standards, it didn't do very well. Got about 10,000 views. RPS didn't cover it at all, although PC Gamer and PC Games then did. We still got 1,000 wish lists from it, but I was really disappointed in this one. And that's interesting because if you asked me at the start of development, you know, you'll do a trailer, it's going to get written about by PC Gamer, you're going to get 10,000 views and 1,000 wish lists, I would have grabbed that with both hands. But because of what we'd achieved up to that point, it felt like a missed opportunity, and I was worried that a trend was emerging that, you know, would the next trailer be 2,000 views? And I think the kind of lesson I know now is that it's just a ride, and there's good bits and there's scary bits, and you just got to do your best and forge ahead and cling on. You know, yes, you could have done some things differently, but you know, you did what you did, you've got to live with it, you've got to learn your lessons and move on. The next trailer we did focused on the exploration gameplay side, which was something a lot of people have been asking about. So I was hoping it would do better than the Sea Monster trailer. And it did, it got 20,000 views, got all the articles we wanted, although RPS needed the friendly reminder email again. And that one had quite a good return for wish lists. And then we did one that was slightly contentious in that we had some project news to deliver. Every trailer to that point had talked about the release being 2017, but we were now postponing it to early 2018. We also hadn't officially announced we were in early access. And I felt that emailing all these outlets and giving them those two bits of news wouldn't get us coverage on its own. So we thought, well, we want to do a video that's basically a let's play. It shows people exactly what the game is. And because we did struggle with this, I don't know if it's the theme or the way our exploration mode looked, but people just would write, oh, cool, it looks like Sid Meier's Pirates. And it wasn't. The combat was very different. Tonally, we were very different. So I wanted to kind of make sure that that was dealt with, and it didn't, because, of course, what people tend to do is they see things, immediately type without thinking, because it's the first time they've seen it, they've not seen everything else or whatever. But that was some contentious news bundled in with this trailer, so, and all the outlets led with news about it's been delayed, so I don't know whether the trailer helped us get the number of articles we did, or we wouldn't have needed to have done that or not. But we still got about 1,000 wish lists from that, which was good. And that one over time has done quite well as well. We then did a very, very short trailer to announce our release date. This was, again, just down to the fact that we thought that the release date news on its own might not get coverage. So I wanted to do everything we could to try and improve our chances of getting coverage. And I thought that a video along with that would do the trick. And we got about 40 articles from all the main sites that we wanted as well. 15,000 views in the first week, which I was okay with that. And we got 3,500 wish lists, which is a good return because I think at that point there was lots of other things in play that were impacting our wish lists. And it turns out, because I would never do this, but it turns out some people, and I know this because of messages on forums or whatever, or YouTubers reaching out to us, but some people go through that upcoming tab on Steam. Now, every time I've looked at that, sadly, it's overpopulated with games that, you know, are never going to go anywhere, and it's very hard to pick out the ones that are good. So, but people do go through it. We then did a trailer to coincide with the launch of the game into early access. This was, again, I just wanted to improve our chances of getting articles saying that the game was out. And we did get a lot of articles that were a mixture of saying the game is out, or they were previews because they had playable code at that point. And it was very tough getting a trailer together when we were also trying to get the game out. But I'm still glad we did it. Now, the wish list at that point were definitely skewed because of the thing I'll get to at the end. But this is what our wish list graphs look like when we have the trailers overlaid on them. So the combat gameplay one, because that happened right at the end of April, I think that's why that spread out. If it was just a single month, it would be higher. But yeah, on our personal YouTube channel, we now have over 250,000 views on it, which, again, you know, some of you may be sat here and go, well, I've got more than that. Some of you may be sat here there going, that would be awesome. And I think it's important to focus on success. What is success for you? And for us, that was great. But there are other bumps there. And they really came from YouTube. So, again, I should have known this stuff. I really wish I knew this stuff. But yeah, in August, just go back to that there. August, after the Kraken trailer, there's a higher bump. And we did nothing in August, so I was like, why have we got 2,000 wish lists just from doing nothing? And it turned out that some smallish channel that had under 20,000 subscribers had basically rehosted our announcement trailer. And within a month, they had over 100,000 views. And I was like, there was no press. They've just clicked a couple of buttons and got all this. I mean, it was amazing because I didn't have to do anything extra. And it did start a trend of other channels doing the same and bundling us into, you know, top 20 strategy games coming in 2017 sort of videos. And they all helped generate traffic and bringing wish lists our way, which was fantastic. And I think another good reinforcement of go big on that announcement trailer, because if you sell the dream, just people buy into it. So yeah, I was like, this is absolutely amazing. I have to leverage this somehow. So, because the YouTube requests were still coming in constantly, and by this time we had a few people get in touch that had over 1 million subscribers. And I felt silly for not thinking of just leveraging this straight away. But seeing that bump in the wishlist numbers from some random YouTube channel kind of really made me think, okay, you got to do this. I think that's the problem with, you know, I was making the game and doing marketing when I thought about it. So maybe I wouldn't have let those opportunities slip by if I was thinking about it so much. But yeah, we did a combat demo that we sent out to YouTubers. We gave them an embargo. They tend to like embargoes, so it was just a week. And we released it 2 weeks after the kind of bad news trailer, as I put it, and so that anybody new to the game wasn't then seeing news about it being delayed and in early access. That was already out there, sort of thing. It did very well for us. You know, several videos with tens of thousands of views, some with over 100,000. And I put 2 Baron Von games up there because the demo had replay value. So he did 2 videos, both over 100,000 views on it, which was absolutely brilliant. I would say don't focus just on the biggest people. The reason I've got these 2 images here is Paul Sauls Jr., 1.5 million subscribers, barely 20,000 views, whereas Nucrium, 38,000 subscribers and over 30,000 views. So I think you could really deep dive into the audiences and the ratios of likes and things like that. I didn't have time to do that. Very briefly, I think Paul Sauls Jr., his audience skews a bit younger, so that might be why. But yeah, don't just focus on the big guys, because the smaller channels have good value too. But yeah, after 1 week, we had, from all of the videos that I was tracking, had about 600,000 views. And within a few weeks, that passed the 1 million mark. It got 6,000 wish lists, which the conversion rate from views to wish lists was a lot smaller, but it's still as good as our announcement trailer. At this stage, other people are doing the marketing for you, not just you. But all that stuff that's out there is fantastic, because when I was prepping for this talk, I basically went through all of the videos that I tracked previously, and they'd gained another 170,000 views, which I hadn't done anything for. I'd done stuff back in December when it launched, but if there was a terrible conversion rate for that, and it was 0.1%, that's still 170 sales for me doing absolutely nothing. It's like I've kind of planted this harvest and I'm continuously reaping it. So that's what the graph looks like with our YouTube stuff factored into it. Now with the specialist press, I would say pick ones that are your main ones to hit. For us, that was PC Gamer and RPS. And go for those. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get some of the bigger sites. Definitely target sites individually. Don't just stick something up on gamespress.com. Do that as well, but don't rely on them scrolling through GamesPress and seeing you. Hit them individually. And I can't imagine a journalist from RPS scrolling through gamespress.com. He's going to be busy enough as it is. Also, do not ignore non-English websites. I spent the majority of the press list going through and finding non-English websites, and all of the articles that I've mentioned, the 400 or so, roughly half are from outside the UK and US, and of all of the views on our channel, 2/3 of them from the outside of the UK and US as well. With YouTube and Twitch, YouTube it feels like it's a lot more traffic, because I think you've got a number you can track that's accurate. But yeah, the conversion rate's low. I think people basically go for the personality as much as the game. You're going to get the majority of key scamming emails from YouTube, so watch out for those. You're going to get them from every angle, but that's the majority. I didn't register the game on Twitch until after I should have done, but you should do that, because then the streamers can associate your game with their videos with your game on Twitch. Twitch has recently improved its data, but I found it quite hard to extract it. I had a hunch that the conversion rate was better. I don't have anything to back that up, though. I just feel like, because of the engagement of the audience, it's slightly better. Now, we didn't demo a huge amount of shows. I'm not convinced that if you're just doing it for people at the show to see your game, that it's worth the cost, particularly when you factor in all the things like accommodation and travel, the cost of the booths and things like that. I think if you're going to a show because you're struggling to get coverage, or you're not great at talking to press, or you need publisher interest, then shows are really good, because journalists and publishers tend to go to these things to try and find a hidden gem. I know people that do loads of shows and they love them, and again, I think it's about what's right for you. We did a few. We did the PC Gamer Weekender. We did stage presentation. We were invited to do that basically off the back of our announcement trailer, so it's another reason to do a good announcement trailer. That was very good, because that had a measurable boost on wish lists and loads of coverage from a high prestige site. We did the mix at GDC. I thought that would be good, because it's basically an evening that journalists get invited to, and so you get individual time with them, but I'm not sure on the cost of that. There were some other good things that came out of it, but I'd say only do a big thing like that if you've got lots of things. If you've got wall-to-wall meetings, then it might be worth it. And we did hear, there are shows, including this one, that have things that are free to enter. There seem to be a lot of publishers around and developers as well, and you got a chance of winning an award, which is very good. We managed to win one, which was very cool. So some other things that we did that were successful or not. We had a newsletter. Newsletters are free unless you get past a certain number of subscribers. They can be quite hard to gain traction, so you've got to offer something that's worth getting them in. The main thing for us was you get your name in the game as a randomly generated crew member. That got us a lot of subscribers. We're over 4,000 at the moment. I think a high percentage of those are there just for their name in the game. And you can analyse the clicks and stuff, so because we're now paying for the newsletter, that's something that I'm not entirely sure about, whether the bang is worth the buck. With your website, it's just got to look professional. Make sure you use the Steam widget to take you to your front page, because we get consistent traffic through there. Small number, but consistent. With your Steam page, make sure your banner and capsule images are good, because that's the first thing people are going to see. Other than that, it's just putting your best foot forward. You know, if you've got awards, show them. If you've got reviews, put them on there. Use images in the description, because it looks higher production values. Social media is not something I really used to a huge amount. Some people do use it very effectively. I just didn't have the time. Unsurprisingly, you get more out of it if you put more in. And because I didn't put a huge amount in, we didn't get a huge amount out of it. All of this stuff you've been doing is basically up to one point, which is your launch. You know, months and months. November 2016 was when we started marketing the game. And it was all for when we launched in February the 21st. There's no such thing as a quiet week on Steam, but you can see when big releases are coming. You know when the scheduled sales start, so just avoid those. Your target is to get in the new and trending tab on Steam, because then you're on the front page. But if you're an early access game, you're not eligible for that, so I wasn't aware of that till after the fact. If you can get top sellers in your local country, you will then be eligible for a banner at the top of the screen on Steam. That's when your store page traffic goes nuts. If you are very lucky like we were, then you can get in the global top sellers. And from there, it just gets bigger and better. Steam have recently added something, broadcast on the front page, popular broadcast appears. If you're ever on the front page, make sure you broadcast, because we got a lot of traffic from that. And the moment you come off the front page, your traffic just drops. Another interesting thing about that point actually is that I was convinced everybody knew about the game and was sick to death of it, because I've been talking about it forever. But during that live broadcast, so many people on the chat were saying, I've never seen this game before. And again, it's, you know, of course they haven't. We've touched a tiny amount of people out there, and there's a lot of people, so just keep on plugging away, I think, is the lesson there. But yeah, should you go it alone? So I think we've got a couple of slides left, now we're done. Now, if you already have a publisher, this doesn't apply to you, obviously. But if you can go it alone, or you're on the fence about getting a publisher, it is very hard work. You have to have someone on your team that can do the job. And if you don't, you have to hire a PR firm or whatever. Some guy helped us from Vicarious PR for free on our launch, hit a few people that I didn't have access to, did that as a favour, but that was handy, because that got a couple of people that I just had no luck with. But it's so important. If you're a developer and you're also going to do it as well, there's going to be an immense strain on you. I was doing the production, the business side, the QA, the low-level design, the vision, and I'd added community and marketing to that as well. And it broke me, if I'm honest, unsurprisingly, and it no doubt had an effect on the game as well. But if you can do it on your own, and you are successful, then the rewards can be great, because obviously you're not giving up revenue share. I think a publisher's fine if you're on the fence like we were. We weren't convinced a publisher would, if they wanted to take 50%, they couldn't guarantee to us that they'd sell double what we would on our own, so we rolled the dice, and it worked out all right for us. But I would say if any of the things I've talked about sound awful to you, and you don't want to do them, you get support for them. And I think even if you intend to get a publisher, you have to do some of this stuff first. Ideally, you'd have publishers coming to you, and not you go chasing after them. I spent most of my career in a work for hire studio where we were chasing publishers, and it was horrible. Much nicer having them come to you. If you've got a cool trailer that sells the dream, that worked for us. But of course we had to do that work ourselves. So the final surprise was when we got to release, we had just over 35,000 wish lists. We were really pleased with that. We worked super hard. We then had, we got on the global top sellers chart, which was absolutely amazing. And then this happened. So this is what the chart looks like the day before release. And then if I include the last 8 days of February, that's what the chart looks like, which blew me away. Absolutely, we had over 100,000 wish lists in a few days. And I was like, well, what the hell was all that work for beforehand if that was just going to happen? But the point was, we would not have had that big bump if we didn't have all of the hard work that we'd done before to get us on the front page, to then get the visibility, to get all the wish lists. Now, your job is to basically convert those. Some will never buy it, some are waiting for a big discount, some are waiting for it to come out of early access. Most important thing is though, I don't know what the number is for Valve to notice you, but we passed it, and in June we got put on the front page twice, 2 24-hour slots, and the effect was amazing. Not just on sales, but your wish list as well. I assumed that there'd be wish list conversions, which there were. About 40% of the sales bump was people who'd wish listed the game as buying it. But our net wish list ended up going up because, again, we had the visibility of the front page. So that's it. Really, I think, like I said, work out what is success for you. Just having the right game is not enough anymore. Even having a right game and the right marketing strategy, it's still immensely hard. It's got to be a battle you fight constantly because you're making something that's really important to you, and you've invested a lot in it, and you have to make it succeed. And you've got to fight that constantly, whether you're going to do it the whole thing on your own or whether you get to the point where you have a publisher who will then take up the fight for you. But yeah, I don't think there's any time for questions, is there?
Yeah, sadly, we're out of time there.
Okay. You can hit me up on Twitter if you have questions. I'll hang around outside for a bit and you can come up here and ask questions if you need to. But yeah, thank you for listening.